Right. How's that? All right. Great. Great. Onegaishimasu.
Onegaishimasu.
Okay, great. We'll just change them up a little bit. Get the vertical. Great, we'll take into the front and back. Okay, side to side. Great, okay, rotating. Great, working inside outside. Alrighty. Great. Let's take it a little bit into the head. Nice slow circles. Back. Okay, both directions. Great. Mobilizing the neck, front and back. Take it to the shoulders. Forwards. Great, alternating. Nice, big circles up the back. Change inside. Working them both together. Changing direction. Yes, great. Just working the elbow one side. Change the side. And both together. Great. We'll go into the chest a little bit, just rolling, opening, closing. And then trying to isolate chest. Great. Open out a little bit. Start to bring the hands into it. Rolling the hips forward. Pulling back with the arms. So, yeah. Yeah. Great. A little bit rotating here with the elbows. Reaching the arms up and then settling them down. A little bit of 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒖𝒊𝒄𝒂𝒕. Very good. Okay, rolling the hips. Little forties. On the knees. Boys. Great, bending and straightening. Great. Just working out the ankles. Rolling. Great. With a little bit on the toes. Nice and careful. Rolling off the ground. And straighten through the toes. Great. And go to the other side. Good. Working the toes a little bit. Rotating off the floor. Straighten through the neck. Good. Okay, just go a little bit more to the legs, just rolling side to side. The hips. Changing to one side. Just like kind of sinking down, settling into the ground, raising up. So a few here. Right, changing the side. Great, stick into a nice low squat. Great, bringing the hands out to the front, stretching back the legs. Right. Placing one hand underneath the shoulder and then rotate it to the top. And reach it to the ceiling. Right, bringing the hand back down, resetting the hips, and then to the side. Right. Okay, bringing the hands down, walking the feet together. Just let the body fall forwards to the front. Relax the upper body, especially the neck. Right. Taking the hands into the ankles. Nice and slowly rolling up the legs. Shake out the wrist a little bit. Side to side, up and down. A bit here. Okay, extending the fingertips out. Great, take it over into a 𝒂𝒄𝒄𝒿 over the top. So pulsing it on, holding it. Great. Okay, changing over. Right into 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒆𝒔. Good, changing over. Good, taking the thumb over the top. Changing over. Good, into 𝒂𝒂𝒃𝒃. Good, changing sides. Nice, taking the fingers, rolling them over. Great, changing over. Great, perfect. Shaking them out at the top. Great, rolling the arms. Shaking out the legs. Good, shaking the whole body. Great, perfect. We will do some jump. Okay.
Sorry? What did you say? No, thanks.
Okay, perfect. We will just do a little bit of basic work. So just working from a 𝒕𝒂𝒿. Thrusting in, dropping back. Nice, clear movement. And changing the size a little softer. Yeah, just play with one idea, which is the same. We're doing. This is more simple with the Bokken work because you're using a different movement. You've got this kind of movement going in. So if you think about like a Kimono kind of cutting in, all the body going forward, all the jaw goes forward. With this case, you've got the same movement, but you've got an extra. You've got a thing which is kind of working against that in that you're kind of opening the back hander. You're kind of going into that movement, but play with the idea that you're still everything goes forward with it. So. Just watch for this movement, there's a tendency to kind of pull it back. So my energy goes like, and then goes into it. So think about the down more than that kind of down, more than the back, the movement. So think of the downwards pressure into this leg especially, and think about that kind of releasing the arm. That kind of release up, rather than I kind of pull it back and then push it forward. So think of that moment like a release, and then a kind of press through, rather than a kind of pull back. And then a push forward. So think about it as a kind of, then you're using the ground, dropping into the ground, and then pressing up and away. So that 𝒊𝒔𝒕 is kind of coming from underneath the ground. So this is a kind of trickier movement in terms of keeping the ground underneath the. Very good. And then just take it into a Zengo. Changing. Again, get the feeling that you're releasing it into the ground. That movement's a release, and you find the back. Find the back. Find the back. Great. Okay, we'll just do a little bit of work. These are the kind of basic 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 forms, and we'll do them in a basic way and then take them into more of a 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 form. So you start first with this one. Think about just slightly opening the body out to inviting the attack in. The first one, you'll know this one, is like rolling back with a spiral block and thrusting back into the center. So you're opening the very finely in terms of your plies into the partner weight. Very slight wedge off the line to the back. And then thrusting back along the line. Back along the line you've got. So if you're on a line here, you're going to very gently wedge it off the line and then straight forward back on it. So yeah, you create a new line and you follow it close to that. And just work it in a nice basic way. So you've got one spiral block onto the center line and thrusting through. Nice and easy. And you can do this on both sides as well, so you can mix right and left. Yeah, the main thing with this is think about pressing weight out of the tip of the jaw. So especially with the block in this kind of area of the jaw, you're looking to make contact with it. So yeah, that weight's going to come from the ground. So imagine a little bit of a kind of downwards impulse again. Not a huge one. So I'm not trying to kind of blow the jaw away in that case. I'm just trying to spiral it off the line. But it needs a sense of weight to pass through as the thrust comes in. You want to take them off the line with it, which means that you need a slight impulse from the ground to create that. Otherwise, it's just the arms doing that kind of move. It becomes just the shoulders. So think about dropping the weight into it. And that dropping of the weight later sets you up to go into the next thrust. But the main thing with that first block is just dropping the weight slightly into the jaw, which you can do very light. It's just about connecting the body into the tip and then thrusting through it. Just play with the idea a little bit. So. Nice. And then if you take this one into a slightly more 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 form, there's two forms for this. There's one which is a kind of very direct where you hardly move the body. And but the first step for this is basically just blending the movement together. So you preserve the kind of back step, but you take it in straight away into the ski. So you're now trying to chain that impulse with the jaw from the foot into the thrust. This way. So you've got the block, coming in this way. A nice kind of two-step. It comes together this way. Open. Oh, you don't track yourself in the feet. There. So especially key now is the back leg, pressing the weight from the ground. So in this case, try and think that the defense and the attack spacing is one movement. What you don't want to do in this case, something like this, you've got that, and then this restarts into another thrust. So think that what you're doing is like a spiral back pierce through, spiral back pierce through. That's the same movement. So it's like whoa, rather than whoa, that way. So think about you're basically spiraling and then through. So that hand's mobile. It does that kind of release pull back, but it doesn't do it as a separate movement that way. So think about basically you're working like that. So that spiral and thrust is all one now. Again, coming from the hip with the ground, obviously, but just get that idea where you kind of roll and spiral. Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay, we'll go to the other side. So now you go to the left side, you're going to open to the right side. Again, you're going to slightly wedge off it. In this case, you're going to go slightly to the right side. So this is a tricky one, but again, quite a small movement. Look for that spiral through the body. And again, starting with a basic finding the center line and then thrusting back off the line that's created. So you're opening, the thrust going kind of to the ribs. You're wedging back, rolling through again, trying to get weight at that point. And then onto the center line, thrusting through it. And just start it with a basic 1, 2. Sure. Going now to your opposite side. And the jaws moving counterclockwise if you're in the left. Yeah, right. Go. Exactly. Yeah, this is a tricky one because of the hip work. So work on this one being quite fine with it. So you're taking the hammy to the right side. What you don't do in this one, although we do this sometimes later, is do that with the hip, where you're kind of coming the hips into a bit more of a square position. So in this one, keep this kind of wedge, so that in terms of the center line, I'm really in the hammy's going towards the partner, rather than something like that, or something like that, where basically the hammy starting to drift away. We use that sometimes later for these kind of blocks sometimes. But for this one, get that sense of the kind of wedges is like that kind of way. So you're keeping the orientation of the hip forward, this one. It's a kind of a tricky move because you're shuffling the body. Right. Yeah. So, that's it. Great, and then in Kinlega, you've got the same idea, so you're opening, look for that same thing, you're going to roll back, roll in. The really key thing now is getting that center line really established as you go back. Really find you're really holding the body back onto the center line and then thrusting through it. So you've got that same idea, it's kind of spiraling through, piercing through. Spiraling through, there. So most of that movement's coming from the back foot, and you just want to let it pass into the jaw that way. Try a little bit, keep it like that. perfect. We'll do the two lower. So these are dealing with the thrust towards the knee. So again, we'll start with the left side. If you look left side forward, you're going to open out. You've got the thrust coming here. And you're going to use the same angle, that wedge. This one, do this way. So the basic goes like this. You open, find the connection here, and then think about dropping onto the center line. The jaw's kind of pulling back. So you've got 1, 2 here. Nice strong block. And then rolling back onto the center line with the hip. And then finding the thrust this way. It's going to be a bit broken down. It really helps me establish the center line later. So play with opening, rolling back, weight behind it, elbows low, coiling back into the center line. Thrusting through. Yeah. And again, you can do this right and left side as well. This goes down, you're parrying a block to the knee, parrying a ski to the knee. So. Right. And then just to get as a kind of in between stage, play with going to this position, snapping the jaw and pulling back to the 𝒂𝒊𝒏𝒈, and then thrusting through. So it's a kind of, this is where you want to do the basics kind of this way, like that. The kind of basic for it again is like that, pulling back into the center line. But just try and pull those two movements together now. So opening, snap, draw back, right onto the center line, thrusting through. Open, snap, draw back. Again, the main thing is weighting, connecting the body to the jaw. 1, 2, 3. Great, and then if you take this into again like a 𝒂𝒂𝒏 form, play with the center. You're going to kind of roll through, find the spot, find the thrust into it. Again, the key thing is that coming back to center line, so you don't want to spend a lot of time in that kind of space. So play with like snap or back there. So it's as if it kind of snaps and drags straight into the thrust. So you want straight away as you've got that, the jaw coming back onto the press. So you want it to be a kind of instant movement. So you can parry the block, pull back to center, and thrust is the same movement. So you've got like that kind of feeling. It's going to be pressing from the back. Press in, press out. Yeah. So that's it. That's it. That's it. Oh. Super. Next one, we go to now again the opposite side. So again, slightly tricky in terms of the hip orientation. So you're going to wedge off the line, find that position. This way, we get elbows down and then roll back onto the center line for the basic. And then thrusting through. You're open to the right, you're carrying the thrust of the knee, but that, and then snapping back onto the center. Through. One, snap, back, snap, back, thrust. Yeah.
Can you do that transition backwards slowly?
Sure. It's there. And then roll them back on. And the attack. And the idea of this is like you're trying to blow the jaw away this way. This is a tricky one because I'm kind of side on, but I want to get a snap that way. So I want the jaw to go. Oh, wait, no, I want the jaw to go that way with the person. So I'm looking for that kind of feeling. And then snapping back on to the line, something like that. Makes sense.
Yeah, so you're deflecting towards the outside of your left leg.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
This is why it's kind of tricky because I'm doing like that kind of movement, but the body's kind of that way. So you've got like that. The tendency in this one is to do that.
Yeah.
Which got in like in the Kumiju, it makes more sense, but this one is a slightly different movement in a sense. I'm not looking to kind of wedge the body and protect it. I'm looking to kind of snap it away and then thrust through. So you're looking to kind of break the contact. In this one. So it's slightly different from you. That's nice. Tricky. Right, now kind of intermittent stage, play with kind of snapping it back. So you've got like that. So you've got to kind of snap that happens. Again, coming from the foot. The key thing is not to lose the foot in this one. So really pressing into the back, finding the back leg, and then you're ready in the ground for the thrust. So the key thing now to think about snapping back onto the center. Okay, perfect. So play with these four. Those, in a way, those are kind of not really a kinagari form. They're fluid, but they're not quite the kinagari form. So the kinagari form in this case looks a bit more condensed. So if you go to like the first one, this kind of rolls back and then thrust through. The kinagari form is much more dense. So it's more that kind of feeling. So it's more contained, and it's basically pretty much on the spot. The key with this is that I'm preserving the spiral with the kind of wedge and thrust through. But again, the key feeling in this is the connection to the ground. So you're not doing the big back forward. You're doing much more condensed that way. So you've got an opening, the contact's close, and wedging it and then thrusting straight through it. So just play with this. Play with the levels of it. Just that first one. Play with the basic kind of stepping back, stopping, thrust through. The flowing form, which is like, and then the kinagari form, which is much more straight in. So it's much more direct. So just play with those levels. Obviously, the last one is based on the ability to do the first and the second. It's the same kind of story for all of them. This is one of the easiest ones to work. Great. We try the lower form as well. So this one you see, if you look at the old videos, you see 𝒂𝒂𝒂𝒂 because this movement. So you've got now this form. The key thing with this one is the leg. So I want to protect the leg so that the basic form teaches us at a distance by going back, withdrawing the leg and replacing it with the jump. What you're doing again, condensing it down in this case, the leg needs to come up behind the jump. So this is a much more, again, contained form, but I don't want to, in this case, not move the body. Find that, I miss it, and then bang, the knee gets caught with it. So really condensed form in this one, the knee is free. And it's basically, it's being protected by the jaw all the time. So I want the knee to be really safe behind the jaw. So it's, in this case, wedging that same basic, that wedge, center like that, turns into that. But all the time you want the knee to become protected. Just play with a little bit. So a little bit of a slightly different footwork. Very, very slight. Yeah, the main thing with this is think about the back foot as you do it. So think about that pressure in the back foot. It's going to release that foot. So you want to. The main thing you don't want to do is push out that ground. That's where, because you're gonna go backwards with it. The hips will kind of rotate into it. So think about again the pressure down, and that pressure releases the foot, and then you come through with it. So think about like filling and emptying. In this case, fill the back foot so that you can release the front foot. A little bit like you're doing the first 𝒂𝒐 all the time. So that kind of movement. It's just a little bit more extreme. Well, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Yes. Perfect. Yeah, and play with the other side as well. So you can do this on the other leg, or the other side, not the other. So you go to the right side. Again, the same kind of theory. You're gonna roll the leg out of the way, but it's been protected by the jaw. So you've really got to protect the knee in this way. Wow. Yes.
Another question for that right awase.
Yeah.
When you go backwards, is there a secondary spiral when you are trying to block the jaw that is going clockwise or counterclockwise?
How do you mean? Spiral.
So you're in this position.
Right.
You go back.
Yeah.
Here. But is it this way or that way? Because I see you do an additional movement.
Right, it's like that. Oh, let me show you. So you're doing that. Back on. Think also, if you think about this one, you can also come back onto the wrist of the person. So if they're attacking it or making contact, you can obviously change the second strike, that one, and come onto the wrist or whatever, something like this. So I'm looking for a form in the base. You've got that move, that, come back on, that. Makes sense. That. Something there. That makes sense.
No additional rotation in it.
No, yeah, I don't want to do an extra move. I don't want to pull, I don't want to work in that kind of area, something like that.
Yeah.
Like, much more in a way kind of direct. I'm looking to kind of the contact. Basically, once I've got the contact point, that is somewhere around that point, I'm trying to roll it back onto the center line.
Yeah.
So once I've got that and press them out, but I'm looking for the tip to go directly to the center line, basically. Even in the basic, so that idea of drawing back to the center with the jaw is basically like I want to get the tip. Once I've passed that contact point, the problem's done, and then I'm back into the center line, something like that. Something that it's a bit like if you go like Irimine or something like Shomuchi like that, and all I need is that slight pass, and then I'm free to kind of press through. So as soon as I've got that kind of contact path, boom, I want to think about going to the center line with feeling as well, like with not just with the that kind of idea.
Thank you.
Center line and then one through. Yes. Ooh. We'll just do one to finish, which is working with the Hayagashi towards the head. So this is a kind of high one. Obviously, you've got high thrust as well, but we'll do this against the Hayagashi. So you've got this kind of familiar movement. We do it in the Kumijo. So you've got the Hayagashi coming to the left side of the head. You're going to change, and then press through the jaw this way. And then you're ending with a thrust through this way. The slight difference in this, I'm not using it quite as a trapping movement like we do in the Kumijo. You've got that kind of pressure, and then I press out. So what I'm looking to do in this case is just the Hayagashi comes in, I'm looking to meet it and wedge it off the line. So you've got like that movement here and then wedge it off the line. And then again, thrust through to the center line. So guys, it's about how to wedge the line and get back onto the center line or regain the center line. Okay. So it's coming through, pressure, back. Last one.
And then if you take this one a little bit more fluid, you can play with this one. You want the back of the jaws now, but obviously the weapon. So you're going to press through it, shrap back onto the center line. So you got it really as one kind of movement now. Again, try and train the impulse back to the thrust now. So you're kind of matching them together. So you've got back comes in together. So you've got to change your feet, but you're still working in the thrust from the back leg. And you're looking for the tip of the jaw to track straight back onto the center line. Space between. Yes, sir. And last 30 seconds, you can also do this in a way like the 𝒂𝒂𝒂 form. So rather than coming back with it, thrusting through, you just change the form slightly. So you're actually going to enter into it, boom, and hit the head with the back of the jaw. So you're just kind of coming in here. The thrust, the 𝒂𝒂𝒂 is coming in. I curl around it, and then wham, comes straight off the head. That's right. Sweat. And then you can use the thrust to control. Something there. Right. The key difference now is that entry. You're curling into the attack this time. It's good. Great. Okie dokie. Great. We will stop there. Very good. Yeah, the main thing with this is that this is a slightly different feeling from the especially the Balkan work that we're doing, where you're basically cutting through the attack this way and basically displacing the sword, the other person's sword. In this case, you've got a feeling where you're wedging the line and then thrusting back through it. So it's got a different kind of slightly different quality to it, which is a kind of movement we use a lot, especially in terms of Taijutsu, that sense of taking, wedging, and then entering through. We use this kind of quite a lot in terms of Taijutsu work. So that's the kind of idea with this. All right. Great, let's bow. Great. Domo, arigato gozaimasu.
Domo,
arigato gozaimasu. Very good, thanks a lot.
Thank you.